Attention hygiene. That's today's topic. How to improve your attention and reduce anxiety with the same methods. Because as a psychiatrist, what I really like is this concept of brain hygiene, right? We do it with our oral hygiene, brushing our teeth, taking showers, all these other good things that we do for our health. But oftentimes what's overlooked is our hygiene for our minds, especially with attention. That's something we all struggle with and want more of, but in the modern world is becoming an increasingly scarce resource. So today I want to fill you in on some proven attention hygiene strategies that won't just improve your focus, but will reduce your anxiety and internal restlessness as well, all with the same simple changes. And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. I'm Dr. Robert. I'm a board certified psychiatrist. I'm really enjoying making these educational videos on various mental health topics. So if you like today's video, find it helpful, useful, definitely check out my prior videos. Stick around for my future videos. Like and subscribe. It really goes a long way, especially since this is still a new channel. So why are we also preoccupied with improving our attention, our focus? Well, I hear a lot of people say that time is our most valuable asset. And I definitely disagree with that. I don't think time is our most valuable asset. I think our attention is. Because our attention helps us make use of our time. It determines how our time is used. I also think that our attention is what defines us as humans. It's what makes us very unique among all the species. It allows us to channel our cognitive abilities towards very specific tasks. It allows us to get people to the moon, if you believe that, or create the internet, or even, yes, AI. It also allows us to focus on our anxiety around our lack of attention these days. And of course, some of the most profitable companies in the world are very aware of this. Their entire business model is getting your attention. They want it and they're not letting go. So I guess with having a YouTube channel, I'm kind of guilty of that too. So attention definitely matters. But how does attention actually work in our brains? Well, first off, I think it's useful to think of attention as our brain's gatekeeper. There are all these different forms of stimuli from our environment, all these senses pouring in information, whether it's sight, sound, touch, feel, taste. All of these senses are constantly coming in, and our attention is able to narrow that down and only give us what's important. And as humans, we can only really pay full attention to one thing at a time for the most part. And so that gatekeeper is very, very important. And it's guided by one molecule. It's called dopamine. You might have heard of it. And yes, it plays a major role in our ability to engage and sustain attention. In a very specific part of our brain, when it's released, it tells our brain, hey, pay attention to this, seek it out. And of course, our brains have evolved in an environment of scarcity, of always following that which is scarce and feeling rewarded for it, and that would increase our survival advantage. So we're kind of primed for this type of behavior. And that in part is why our brains are so vulnerable to getting hijacked by very stimulating, pleasurable activities. And of course, in today's world, with our phones in our pockets and our hands constantly, novelty is endless. Every scroll, every notification, every TikTok, all of it triggers a little dopamine spike. It tells our brain, hey, pay attention to this and seek more of it out. And that's okay once in a while. But the problem is it's too convenient these days to have this source of dopamine constantly present, constantly being fed to us. And our brains don't like that. Our brains are not evolved to consistently be exposed to this many recurring dopamine spikes. Our brains prefer consistency. It's useful to keep in mind too, it's not just stimulating things that bump our dopamine up, it's also every time we shift our attention. When you shift your attention, it also kind of creates a little dopamine bump. And that's why people can also find themselves kind of feeling internally restless, like they constantly can't sit still in their own minds. They have to keep shifting between things. They don't feel satisfied sticking to one activity. Nothing feels really fulfilling anymore. And they're constantly kind of craving something a little bit more. The degree of boredom that they experience also goes up, and their satisfaction in life in general goes up, and their mood symptoms get exacerbated. Their experience of anxiety gets worse. And everything suffers in turn. And it's not just the obvious things like constant notifications, doom scrolling, but also even the way the media is portrayed on the news, right? So it's kind of seeking your attention. Everything's high intensity, right? Even a lot of YouTube videos out there constantly have shifting screens, things grabbing your attention, having you engaged. Probably as you noticed on this channel, right? I don't have too many flashy edits, not too many B-rolls. And as my YouTube analytics page will show you, it's definitely helping not throw off your attention or engage it too much. There are even things like podcasts, right? Audiobooks, things you do while doing regular daily things that also kind of stack some further dopamine requirements on your brain. And so that also kind of adds to it, doing multiple things at once, multitasking. So let's get to the strategies. What do we do about all of this? Certainly the advice that is most useful, but also the most challenging to fully implement into your life is embracing stillness. And that means not giving into the urge to constantly fill every moment of every day with stimulating things. And that means pulling back from the urge to chase that next funny video or search out for that next infuriating headline. Instead, just kind of pulling back, putting your phone away, turning the TV off, silencing the podcast. I swear I've had patients struggle with this more than quitting smoking, which shows you just how addictive these little micro dopamine hits are. So here are some practical tools that might help get you started at least. One of my favorite ones is I like to prescribe 2 or 5 minute meditation twice daily, not a second more. That's right, just 2 minutes of meditation twice daily is a great place to start. Turning everything off, silence your phone, sit back and just stare at a spot. I don't even have people try to do a formal meditation because if I find they're really drawn into this dopamine cycle, that's going to be too much for them. They won't withstand the literal actual pain. Like people will describe it as a visceral discomfort, like this internal torture of having to sit there and meditate. So I'll just have them stare at the wall, put a timer on their phone for 2 minutes and stare at the wall. And then maybe from there, after a few weeks, if they grow comfortable with being able to do just that, start to do a breathing exercise. Start to breathe in, exhaling for longer than you inhale, and being very mindful of your breath. And if anxious thoughts come up or distracting thoughts, funny thoughts, just be okay with that, acknowledge the thought, and then refocus on your breath. Then maybe over time, expand that 2 minute period to 5 minute period twice a day. I also like to introduce more analog opportunities in the day. What I mean by that is moving away from digital things and more towards, old school. Instead of having the Apple Watch constantly sending you notifications and emails to your wrist, have a mechanical watch. Instead of reading articles on Facebook, pick up an actual book. I personally like to start my day with 30 minutes of reading and end my day with 30 minutes of reading. I think that in and of itself really just makes you feel more relaxed, more focused throughout the day, makes you sleep better at night, and get through that long reading list that you have, and you just feel better about yourself too. Or instead of listening to music while you're doing things, play music and just listen to it. I know that's a crazy concept for a lot of people, even for myself it was for a while, but imagine just putting on a song and just listening to it rather than having it be background music. Doing things with intention and guiding your focus towards one task at a time without distracting other factors that further kind of disrupt your dopamine system. Crazy, I know. Also, exercise without distraction. So try doing a Peloton without TV, or go for a jog without music. Just focus on what's around you. Let your brain just exist without constantly pressing that dopamine button. Or if you're commuting, if you're driving to work, taking the bus, try doing it without your earbuds in or without the radio going. Let more boredom in. Let your brain start to reset. Let it start to crave less and less of that dopamine. It's kind of like going through a sugar detox. The first week is going to be really, really hard and painful. It's not going to be pleasant. But your brain will definitely thank you over time if you're able to consistently give it less, and in return, you'll get more. I guarantee it. And of course, these strategies are all the more important and useful if you have ADHD, but understandably also more difficult to implement. And over time, what this will allow you to do is feel less internally restless, feel less anxious, feel more focused, like you have more control over what you do with your day, the priorities you set for yourself. And of course, nobody's gonna be 100% perfect with this. I'm definitely not. I definitely have my days where I'll binge on things and definitely press that dopamine button more than I know I should, but that's okay. I give myself grace, and the next day I go back to my regular habits and I try to keep them as much as I can, not because I have to, not because I'm forcing myself to, but because I like to, because I've found over time that kind of makes everything better. It makes my focus more sustained, makes me feel more like myself. It opens up new hobbies, new interests, new ways of just feeling appreciative of your day, of your life. And why would you want to go back to doom scrolling after that? And so my friends, in closing, I encourage you to do this. Seek out stillness, seek out boredom, be okay with it, embrace it. Don't try to have that be something you're constantly afraid of, pushing away, trying to find a way out of. And of course, it's going to be very anxiety inducing potentially when you first start to do that. But the more you're able to introduce that bit by bit into your day, into your week, into your regular routine, the more natural it will actually start to feel. So to feel your anxiety go down, your focus improve. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, you'll feel much more appreciative of how you've spent your time. And your time will become even more valuable. And that's attention hygiene for you. And so reclaiming your attention isn't about perfection, it's about practice. It's about working on these things bit by bit throughout the week, introducing them into your daily routines, and hopefully with time that'll reduce your anxiety, improve your focus, make you feel more fulfilled from your days. And of course, I hope this video didn't suck up too much of your attention. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see everyone next week.